from IIM Mumbai. To facilitate our session today, we have with us Ramesh Ranjan, with us from GHRC team. He's the CEO of Global HR Community, who is our partner for the Britannia Community of Managers platform. Ramesh comes with an overall 40 years of experience in the field of HR. So without any further ado, I would like to hand it over to Ramesh for taking it forward from here. Over to you, Ramesh.
Thank you, Prachi. Thank you, Tanvi. And thank you, Britannia, for having invited me to facilitate this fireside chat. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's fireside chat, a candid conversation where we get to step beyond the formalities and understand the journeys, insights, and personal philosophies of leaders who shape Britannia's success story. It's my absolute pleasure to host this session with someone who has been an integral part of Britannia for the last 2 decades, Mr. Manoj Balgi. Manoj has worn multiple hats, as you're aware, in his long-standing career, from leading procurement to now overseeing both manufacturing and procurement. His evolution from a function expert to a business leader reflects not only growth, but a deep understanding of how to lead teams, drive change, and deliver results while staying grounded. Indra Nooyi says, you've got to work on developing your skill set across disciplines. If you want to lead a company or get into the CXO levels, you've got to understand finance, operations, manufacturing, marketing, and technology. You can't just be an expert in one. In line with this, our chat with Manoj is more than just a reflection on his career. It's a leadership masterclass noted in lived experience of working across departments and disciplines. Today, we'll explore pivotal moments that shaped his leadership, how he builds and nurtures team culture, how he deals with the tougher side of leadership, like difficult conversations and managing performances. We'll also talk about his mentors, his personal learning, and his advice for young leaders navigating their own paths in today's dynamic world. This session is designed to inspire, inform, and spark reflection. So let's tune in, open our minds, and take away lessons that might shape you in the next step in your own leadership journey. Manoj, it's my pleasure to be on this show, having discussions with you, Manoj.
Thanks, Ramesh.
Let's start on the leadership journey and evolution. Leadership is often not just by position, but by pivotal moments, challenges, mentors, and transitions that force reflection and adaptation. Research from the Center for Creative Leadership shows that 70% of leadership development happens through on-the-job experiences. Great leaders evolve their style as they grow, blending authenticity with adaptability. James Cousy and Barry Posner in the book Leadership Challenge talks about leadership is not a position or a title. It is a process, a journey of learning, adapting, and growing. The question to you, Manoj, is looking back on your journey, what were some of the pivotal moments or key milestones that shaped your approach as a leader? And how has your leadership style evolved over the years as you have grown into this role? We would love to understand the turning points that helped shape your leadership style and how you approach and how your leadership style has matured over the period. Mr. Manoj.
Yeah, thanks. In the early parts of my career, I used to work for organizations which were, what you may call startups. They were organizations which were large in India, but they had started a business, and I had the opportunity to work in a smaller setup within a large setup. And there, the growth phase, where there are a lot of challenges, day in and day out, there are different challenges that come in. And I was privileged to work under some very good people who taught me a few things. So one thing that stays with me is, what I was taught is when the chips are down, you have to keep focus, think out of the box, and try to find a solution. And that has stayed with me throughout. And I can give an example. In the early part of my career, I was working for an automotive company, which was just setting up shop in India, and we were doing well, and suddenly the business tanked, and we were saddled with a huge amount of inventory of materials, and the suppliers started using that opportunity to blackmail us and get higher rates. And then one of my earlier mentors, Mr. Sudhir Rao, who incidentally had no background in purchase, he leadership, high potential leaders identified by the company, moving across so many functions. He gathered people around and said, yes, we have a real problem where the supplier has an upper hand, and how do you find solution in this? Gathered all the functions together, and we came up with a solution which actually turned the tables on the supplier, and we came out unscathed. So that has always stayed with me. When the chips are down and you are negotiating from a position of weakness, how do you find ways out and get into a place where the solution is acceptable to you and to the other party also? And those kinds of situations come every now and then when you work in the operations function. So I've been in operating functions like procurement, manufacturing, and we work a little bit in supply chain. So day to day, many a times you encounter situations, and the key lies in trying to think out of the box, get people together, and find a solution. May not be an optimal solution, but something that takes you out of the hole that you are in. Right? And the latest one that, it helped us a lot during COVID times, when the situation was quite hopeless, when people were first time we were forced with a situation where people were not in front of each other, working from home, how to get people together and deliver what as a company we deliver. I think that this kind of learning helped me, and it stays with me all the time.
Very interesting, Manoj. As you rightly said, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And so I really understand where you're coming from. And having been exposed to manufacturing a large part of my career, I understand how tough it can be as a leader and how we have evolved over a period of time. So, Manoj, let's now move to the topic of building and cascading team culture. A leader's value gets reflected in the culture they build. According to Gallup, only 27% of employees strongly believe in their company's values, often because the culture doesn't translate down the line. Strong team cultures are deliberately created and consistently reinforced. As Peter Drucker once said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And we know how Britannia, a long-standing industry, is very well known for its people practices and the work environment. I would like to understand from you, the question to you, Manoj, is how do you approach building and maintaining a strong team culture, and how do you ensure that it gets cascaded effectively to the teams down below? We would love to hear from you on how you build alignment across the teams and ensure your values and vision travel deep into the organization, across factories, across location, across geographies.
So to me, the key for maintaining a strong team culture is trust. I have always trusted my team, and I was fortunate enough that my managers have already trusted me with whatever I do. So there's something which I don't know who told me this, but it stayed with me. It says that you should, when you're handling a team, you should keep an eye and not a hand. So you should set the boundaries for the team and let them perform. Keep an eye about what's happening, but don't micromanage and don't keep an hand. Right? And I have been following it. So my approach has been always to review, guide, set boundaries, but let people take their decisions, come with rationale for those decisions, and even if they make mistakes, it's fine. The only thing that is sort of unacceptable is making repeat mistakes. You make mistakes and you learn. I have made mistakes, I have learned, and I was fortunate to have good bosses who accepted those mistakes and let me learn. And I try to do that. May not be 100%, but that's how always been my approach. Keep an eye and not a hand.
Great, Manoj. I like that what you said, keep an eye and not a hand. And as we all learned very early in our school days, that failure is a stepping stone to success, right? Mistakes can happen, but how do we learn from those mistakes and then bounce back? I think is the key. And rightly said that trust is the foundation for building culture in the organization. So, Manoj, let's move on to the next topic, which is about handling difficult conversations. While managing performance, preserving morale is one of leadership's hardest balancing acts. Studies from MIT Sloan suggest that high-performing leaders uses radical candor, being direct while showing care. The goal isn't to avoid discomfort, but to handle it with empathy and clarity. So, Kim Scott, author of Radical Candor, says, care personally, challenge directly. The question to you, Manoj, is how do you handle difficult conversations or underperformance while still maintaining trust and morale? Can you share how you handle these underperformances and give tough feedback while still keeping the relationship intact?
So that's the most difficult part of my job, having difficult conversations, and we have a lot of them. Uh, and to be honest, I find it very difficult to do it. I would be honest in telling that that's not something which I enjoy, and that's something which I find really difficult to manage. So some of the things that I have learned is and practiced is keep it factual. Don't get personal biases in. Sometimes it helps if you keep notes and of what happened with the facts surrounding a particular incident which led to an underperformance, and use those notes so that things remain factual and personal biases don't come in. Not getting personal biases into difficult conversation, or not judging a person based on the recency of your interaction, or uh, your personal biases, likes or dislikes, is very important. And I have tried to do that. I don't know how successfully, but I have tried to do that always, that keeping it factual, keeping notes and using instances and the circumstances that lead to those instances. But believe me, it's very difficult. It's not very easy to do this.
Yeah, we fully understand. Being in HR, we fully understand how difficult it is to have difficult conversations. And I like the fact that you said that it should be based on facts, on data, and devoid of personal biases. I'm sure with this approach, we will be able to manage difficult conversation, but it's not going to come easy. And it takes a bit of practice, a bit of courage, and a bit of um, developing our own resilience inside of us. So, Manoj, let's now move on to the topic of mentorship and support systems. Behind every successful leader is often a mentor who helped and believed in them. Harvard Business Review highlights that professionals with mentors are more likely to get promoted and report greater job satisfaction. Mentors provide perspective, courage, and learning opportunities. And the famous entertainer Oprah Winfrey once said, a mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside you. So the question to you, Manoj, is have you had mentors along your journey, and what role did they play in your growth? We would love to hear who played a role in guiding or shaping you as a leader, and how that influence shows up in your leadership today.
Yeah. So as I said in the beginning, I've been very lucky to have a lot of mentors along my journey, and I believe that you can learn from everybody that you work with, and keep an open mind, and you can learn something from everybody that you work with. I have had many mentors. Some of them have been friends, some of them have been peers, some of them have been bosses, and I have even learned from people whom I have worked under, or people who work under me. Everybody brings a different perspective. So if there's a concept which I read really recently, and it quite resonates with me. So there's this concept of having board of directors. So why does a company hire a board of directors? Board of directors bring in specific skills which are required for the company. And similarly, in your personal life or work life, you require mentorship in different aspects of work and life, and that's what the book calls it, personal board of directors. There's a book called as Clear Thinking by an author called as Shane Parrish, and it's a very powerful concept that you identify what you want and look at people who can help you in those, and have your own personal board of directors. So I have tried to do that. I would again repeat, I have been lucky that the people whom I have worked under or worked with have helped me a lot in terms of passing through difficult personal and professional situations, and take learnings from them, emulate them as to how they have handled these things and how they would handle these things. And obviously, there are multiple aspects of work that you handle, and not one person can be a mentor in all of those. You have to pick and choose what are your areas that one wants to work on, and look for people through networking, internally or externally, reach out to them. And I have generally found that people are quite helpful. When you reach with no hidden agenda, you are very clear about what you want and what kind of help you want, what kind of mentorship you want, and I have found people to be very helpful.
Very interesting. I like the fact that you talked about the new concept, personal board of directors. While we all know board of directors as the governing board for corporates, this personal board of directors is a very nice concept where you choose whom to approach for trying to help you and mentor you. And you also brought some fresh perspectives because normally people think mentors are someone above us, but you talked about friends, about peers, about your bosses, and even you talk about people who work below you could also be a mentor to you. That's a different dimensions which you brought about. Very interesting. And of course, as you rightly said, I strongly believe that your network is your net worth. And therefore, we don't know which part of the network can come into play when you're seeking some mentors or some coaches way down in your career. So, Manoj will now talk about what are the skills are required for emerging leaders. Today's dynamic business world demands that young leaders possess both resilience and agility, and not just the technical know how. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report lists emotional intelligence, complex problem solving, and active learning among the top leadership skills for the future. As Simon Sinek says, leadership is not about being the best, it's about making everyone else better. The question to you, Manoj, is what are the most important skills or mindsets you believe young leaders should develop to advance in their careers? And what leadership qualities do you believe have helped you succeed in your own career? Based on your journey, what would your advice be?
So first and foremost is what is of prime importance to me is respect. It may be called as a skill or attitude or whatever. Respect, right? Respecting everybody that you work with, right? That's very important. Second is realizing, again, it was something which was imbibed in me a long time ago. One of my early managers told me that, respect the chair that you sit in. Right? Respect the chair that you sit in, and the respect that you get is for the chair and not for you. So the earlier you realize, it keeps you grounded, and then a lot of things fall in place. So respecting is as simple as keeping time, right? Or responding to somebody's calling you, returning their calls is to me is a respect, because somebody's calling you for something and you show that you respect that person when you call him or her back. Responding to a mail that comes to you, right? Not making people wait for you when you're given a time. So to me, that's respect, and I strictly follow that, because I would like to be respected in those aspects, and I definitely respect people in those aspects, right? So that's the first thing, especially in the function that we work, especially in procurement, right, where it's very easy to get a bloated head, because everybody calls you. You are in a position to give contracts and awards and so on and so forth to people. The first earlier you realize that the respect is for the chair that you occupy and not for you as an individual. It's always better, right? The second thing is trying to solve a problem and having no hidden agenda, and that's something that's very important. When you want to actually solve a problem, if you know what you want and how to get people along. So I have always believed that finding a solution is very important, and I don't look for optimal solutions. It can be suboptimal, right? But at least find a solution and try to generate options. That's very important in today's world to me, because the situation keeps on changing every few seconds. We work in the commodity side, right, where things keep changing. If we keep on trying to over optimize, then no decisions will be taken. Right? So trying to find a solution which is workable is, to me, is a good skill that people should have. And taking a leap of faith, trust is the third thing that I said. Trusting in yourself, your abilities, and trusting in the people that you work with, right? And being open for feedback, right? These are the three or four things that I feel are very important. See, other than that, the functional technical skills are obviously important, and that depends on the role that you handle, right? And you should be willing to learn, right? As I said, you can learn something from everybody, and always try to have that attitude where, wherever you go, whatever you do, you can learn. See, one of the things that I have seen people failing is because when they come in, if they don't come in an open mind and say that, I will, everything when I'm going to is wrong and I'm going to change everything in the next 3 months, it doesn't work that way. Something is running, there are good parts and bad parts to it. Accept the good parts, try to improve the not so good parts. But if one comes with an attitude into a new role or a new facility or a new job that, there used to be an ad earlier when we were kids, a bulb at pure ghar ke badal dunga. That doesn't work. So having an open mind, being pragmatic, practical, trusting people, and respecting. These are four things, in my view, are quite important skills for people to have.
I think very simple, and I think your wisdom and your time is coming out very clearly, right? Some of the skills which you said, which are time lasting and long lasting, right? You first talked about respect. I fully agree with you that respect is the key. That's the starting point. And very interestingly, you also said people are respecting you not for the individual, but for the position or the chair that you're occupying. Very often, I think people mistake that for themselves, but very clearly, as you rightly said, it's more for the chair, for the position, and not so much for the individuals. And you also talked about no hidden agenda when it comes to problem solving. As long as we are trying to solve in the best interest of the organization, I think that's a very good attribute to have. Trust, needless to say. And you also talked about keeping an open mind and being open and receptive to feedback. And I think more importantly, you talked about pragmatism and practicality, which is, I think, very, very important when it comes. Very simple skills, very relevant even in today's world, coming from a wise shoulders of Manoj. There was somebody who was wanting to raise a hand. Yeah, do we want to take a question now, or do you want to take it at the end of it? How do you
I'm
want to?
fine. I'm fine anyways.
Okay. Let's strike when the iron is hot. Somebody wanted to ask a question. Please go ahead.
I don't know if they accidentally clicked on that. Is there any question we have from the audience?
Okay, doesn't seem to so. We'll always throw it open there. So
Yeah.
Manoj, there's a lot of people who are giving a thumbs up. So that's a good, interesting. On the question of continuous learning and staying current, let's delve about that. In a fast-changing world, the best leaders are lifelong learners. McKinsey suggests that leaders who proactively invest in continuous learning are 21% more effective at navigating disruption. This could be through reading, networking, learning, or simply staying curious. Peter Drucker said, the only skill that will be important in the 21st century is the skill of learning new skills. So the question to you, Manoj, is what are your go-to methods for staying updated with industry trends and continuously learning as a leader? How do you stay informed, inspired, and ahead of the curve as a leader in the manufacturing and procurement space, especially in a world of AI and other disruptions?
The first thing that I do, I read. I read a lot. I use my spare time in reading. Even while I'm traveling, I like to read, and I also look at book recommendations on professional networking sites like LinkedIn. I make sure that I go through. So as I said, there are your personal board of directors. There are certain people whom I follow for what they recommend to read, and I read and I recommend also to people to read. Some of them do read, some of them don't, but yeah. So that's something. Next is obviously networking, because you said, I have about 30 years of work ex. I've been worked in the different companies, and I keep in touch with people informally and understand what's happening there. And I also touch base with most of my mentors in case of a problem and understand what's happening in their sphere of work. And that helps. Some of it is applicable, not applicable. Some of it is adaptable. You can adapt with a little bit of tweak and all. Right? And the last one is listening. Whenever you are in a meeting where you have nothing to contribute, listen. Just listen and understand, and then it helps. So there are multiple forums. Being what I handle, I have to attend a lot of meetings where I have nothing to contribute. I just sit there, listen what's happening, and try to see if anything that is applicable to me or my workspace. So reading, and then I use LinkedIn extensively for these things. A lot of, unfortunately, now LinkedIn is moving towards a Facebook kind of thing. I'm not on social media, but I do keep track of what's happening through LinkedIn and talking to people. I talk to a lot of people and understand what's happening.
Very true, Manoj. As you said, reading, of course, professional networking, as you rightly said. LinkedIn, of course, is the go-to place for professional networking. But as you rightly said, LinkedIn is becoming more a social networking site than a professional networking site. It's getting diluted. And of course, as per your personal board of directors, you're following some thought leaders. And then, of course, as you rightly said, listening is a key skill in the process of continuous learning. So, before we throw open to the questions, I just have one last question, Manoj. In this world of AI and disruption, especially when we see in the manufacturing sector, how do you think manufacturing has evolved over the last 30 years? And what's been your personal experience, maybe with respect to Britannia or any other industries that you work? How do you see manufacturing in this age of AI?
So there are a lot of, I won't call the AI is a much abused term. Everybody you talk to is now talking about AI. I would rather put it at digitization of manufacturing or any part of work that you do. So there's a huge amount of digitization which is happening, which is improving productivity, bringing down defects. To put it very simply, right? Improving productivity, that is doing more with less, and bringing down defects. So bringing down wastages. Defect is a waste. So a lot of work is happening, and different industries have their own perspective. I won't be able to comment on what's happening in manufacturing because my experience with core manufacturing is only in Britannia for the last 1 year. But as an observer outside, where you read a lot of articles and when you meet people and see what's happening, so there are a lot of disruptions which have happened in all spaces of supply chain, right from demand sensing to demand planning to materials planning to procurement to logistics. And there are waves and there are certain sets of people who work in those areas. So in between there's a wave in logistics. How do you bring in logistics efficiencies in terms of bringing down cost, improving the turnaround times, improving the asset utilization? Now there are talks about industry 4, industry 5, all sorts of jargons are being used. So obviously, as I said, overall objective is two. One is to improve the productivity and bring down wastages, and that's where the technologies are working towards. And we should not get swayed by the narrative that goes around. You have to basically figure out what's good for you, what you can afford, what is a return on investment, what you do, and then look at it.
Do you see AI as a threat or as an opportunity?
In certain sets of work, it's obviously a threat. So, and you would have seen that as the technology improves, when you call a call center, earlier you could talk to a person on the first push of a button. Now you have to wait for probably 5-10 minutes to actually get to a person, be it banking or whatever, right? And those kinds of jobs which are repetitive, rule based, etc., would have they are continuously getting replaced, right? A lesser number of people are doing it. So that's a threat in a country like ours where there are huge amount of people. I don't know whether you can call it as a threat or an opportunity, but obviously there will be job losses in those areas. But on the other hand, the convenience that these things give you, like you can get anything in 10 minutes, right? You don't have to plan for anything. Your salesman can know what to sell or what to push for. So those are opportunities for organizations. So it's a fine balance as to you look at it as an opportunity or threat. In certain areas, it's an opportunity. In certain areas, in certain sectors of business, AI can wipe you out. Right? So, for example, if you were in the content creation field, AI could wipe you out. Right? There's no need for content creators anymore. The writers, copywriters, etc. But when it comes to physical manufacturing and all, I see it's as an aid which helps in doing your job better.
I would say it is no more artificial intelligence. I would call it augmented intelligence.
Yeah, right.
So we will now throw open questions to people on the various discussions that we had, or anything else you would like to ask Manoj. We are open to answer any questions that people may have. The floor is yours. Would anyone have any questions for Manoj?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi. So this is Prashant here, right?
Yep.
And sir, I have a question for you. I mean, being into such a senior leadership member, what do you do to maintain your work-life balance?
So see, this work-life balance has been in discussion for a long time in different forums, and my personal take on work-life balance is everybody has to find their own work-life balance. For me, what is work-life balance may not be the work-life balance for you. So you have to prioritize both sides. What is a priority on the personal side and what is a priority on the work side, and figure out. And eventually, everybody figures out. You find that sweet spot where both of them coexist. There's no fixed and definitive answer, but you don't have to overthink about it. It falls in place. Believe me, it takes some time and it falls in place. And like Ramesh said, the technology helps you spoil your work-life balance as well as it helps you in maintaining your work-life balance. It works both ways.
Right. Thank
So you
you.
got to find your own sweet spot.
Yeah.
Guru, I think, has raised his hand. Guru, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Hi, sir.
Yeah.
One quick one from me. Where do you balance responsiveness and efficiency? And if there was a conflict, which one do you choose? And how do you make decisions as a manager? And it's a question like always ponders all of us, right? Especially when
You said responsiveness and efficiency.
Responsiveness and efficiency. Yes.
Okay. So it is situational, right? It is situational. There cannot be one single answer. Efficiencies are important, but if the market response is more important, then I would sacrifice efficiency and go for market response, because eventually we exist because of the consumer. The consumer is buying our product, and that's why we exist. So we have to meet the consumer requirements first, and everything else comes later.
Very true.
Absolutely. Thanks.
So I have one question, Manoj. Vivek this side from R&D.
Yeah.
So I need your suggestion. How can we improve this data loss and IP protection in our company? Just I need your guidance on this.
See, there are two parts to data loss and IP protection. One is the technology part of it. There are a lot of technologies available which a lot of companies use. So as simple as giving you laptops without a provision to connect a USB device, right? So that you can't steal from your laptop. Then there are access controls and so on and so forth. And then there are monitoring, the surveillance kind of softwares available, right? The second part is in spite of all this, data theft happens. So you go to a defense company or a pharma company where research is the core for the company. There also data thefts have happened, right? So they have improved over the years where you can use the technology to prevent data theft. The second part is the attitude. So if somebody wants to steal something, they will find a way of. So there it can be managed with stern consequence management. If you are found, then make an example out of it, so that people are scared of doing it again.
Thank you. Thank you, Manoj.
I think Rakesh has raised his hand. Rakesh, do you want to go next?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, in procurement, one of the basic skill we require is negotiation.
Mhm.
So I would like to learn from you, what tips will you give to me for being a master of negotiation?
Negotiation is, as they say again, saying the 90% preparation and 10% execution. Right? So you have to prepare hard. You have to understand what you want, okay, and what can the other side offer you. So there are a lot of things that we do in procurement in terms of studying your relative power between the buyer and the seller. Where do you stand? What are your levers that you can push on? What can you give in return? But negotiation is give and take. Many a times we feel negotiation is just hammering somebody and getting something that you want. But my belief is negotiation is give and take, and there has to be a path. There has to be a point where both the buyer and seller meet each other. If you don't do that, then it leads to fallouts. You don't achieve what you have to achieve. So it has to be. That's why they call a negotiated settlement is both sides agree to something. It's not that one side dictating and somebody else agreeing it. So a lot of it is preparation, and preparation can be any sorts. As to what do you want to do, you have to know about your enemy. When I say enemy, it's not in that sense, but the other side. What are their pain points? What can they do for you? What have they done in the past? How is their order book? How much do you matter to them in terms of what business are you giving to them? The question of relative importance as to how important are you to your buyer and how important is the seller to you. And based on that, you negotiate. As I said, it's 90% is preparation and 10% is execution. So in the olden days, negotiation used to be, I sit and I bulldoze somebody. It doesn't work that way. Right? Today, a lot of information is available. How effectively you use that information to your benefit is most important in negotiations.
So
Yeah,
this is
Prashant,
Shyam
you want to ask
Shetty.
a question?
Sir, you're handling the major two functions, and we know what is the work pressure you have always. But one thing surprised me always, that even though you have so much of work pressure and all that, you always have that smile in your face and you're accessible to everyone. So how you are making, in such a pressure and even being cool and you're accessible, we need some tips from you, sir. How it is possible.
See, I don't think there can be any tips on that. Some of it is probably natural. Okay. And I was not like what you see me. I used to be quite short-tempered and I used to get nervous quite a bit. Over the years, when you know in a situation, what are your options? So I said in the beginning that you always have to find options, right? In any situation. So if you figure out what your options are and what is the consequence of exercising an option, it takes away the stress, right? Unless until you are in a hopeless situation, right, where nothing can be done. But in your situation, if you see any ray of hope that something can be done, start thinking on that, try to find solutions, and you will see yourself that the stress goes away. Right?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, Vignesh this side.
Yeah, Vignesh.
As a senior leader, which are the things or consideration which you never compromise while targeting a win-win situation?
So, see, I am working for an organization. So the organization organization objective is prime importance. So I cannot compromise on that.
Right.
The organization's objective and the rules and regulations under which the organization works. So we have a Britannia way of working, right? It talks about the 4 things, right? Respecting is one of them. So never compromise on that. Right? If the solution is suboptimal for the organization, you can always go back to the management and give your point of view, but never compromise on basic ethics and values.
Right.
Mani Vanan has raised his hand. Mani, do you want to go next?
Sir, good afternoon. Mani Vanan here. How do you manage your time, sir? Give me some tips.
See, you have to prioritize your time. So there's the same question on work-life balance. You have to prioritize what is important to you, and there cannot be hard and fast rules as to what is important now during working hours and what is important outside working hours. But there may be situations where work becomes important after working hours also, if there is an extraneous situation that comes in where you have to manage. So it's all individual. There are no tips on that. You have to figure out what is important for you and the place that you work for. And then you have to strike a balance between that. And sometimes you have to compromise on that. So for example, if you are watching a movie and some call from the office comes saying that this is very important, and you have to decide whether it is important or not. After you work for the number of years that I work, what is important and what can be, put away for some hours, right? And then accordingly you decide. And that's where the sweet spot, as I said, and as Ramesh also said, that like you have to find that sweet spot. There are no hard and fast rules for that. But one thing is that you have to be flexible. You can't make a fuss about, okay, this is my personal time and I will not do anything official in this. Or this is my official time, I won't do anything personal. You have to have that flexibility. And that flexibility only gives you peace of mind. Learn to accept that, these situations will come where you have to compromise one space of your life at the cost of the other. Right? The earlier you realize that, the better it is.
Thank you, sir.
And I think today there's a blur between work and life, especially in today's world of remote working and all this virtual working. There's a blur between work and life. When the work stops, when the work starts, it's a big challenge at times.
Yeah, there is the lines are blurred totally. Right? Especially after 2020, the lines are blurred totally.
Exactly.
Sir, how do you,
Nitin?
sir, how do you handle the failures which just happened?
How do you handle failures? Okay, so as I said, the simple and theoretical answer is learn from them. Okay, take them in your stride. It hurts. Obviously, every failure hurts. As a human being, if somebody says that failures don't hurt, then a person is lying. Failures hurt. But don't brood too much on it. There'll be other chances. Learn from the failures and try to see how will you not fail again. If you had failed because of your own actions, right? Learn from them. If you failed because of an external circumstances, which people typically try to blame external circumstances for failures, right? But the most important thing is to learn from failures. As I said, mistakes are okay. Repeated mistakes are not. Similarly, if there is something which is under your control, and if you could have done something differently and still you failed, then try to learn to do that thing differently.
Yes. So next is Nitin. Prashant, we'll take your question at the end. We'll just give a moment for others also to ask the question. Nitin, you can go next.
Yeah. Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sir, actually, my question is that, in Britannia, you have done various roles. So over the period of time, you have got into transition into more larger and complex roles. So with each transition, how do you have personally stay active, effective, and decisive while managing complexity? So, there's a lot of plethora of information, decision making that keep on coming. So with every transition, how did you change yourself? And is there any literature or book after you have shared your experience that you would like to recommend?
So firstly, there are no books, at least not that I am aware of, which tell you how to manage transitions. There can be some guidelines which some books will suggest. But for me, what is important is you understand the predecessor and successor of what you do. When I say not as an individual, predecessor activity and the successor activity, and how your actions impact the overall scheme of things. So you take a decision, what will it impact? And if you want to take a decision, what are the various variables within your organizational parameters that can impact your decision? So that's why listening is important. Listening, networking is important. When you talk, you understand the processes of what has linkages, and it helps make decisions better. And in case of a doubt, as I said, you have to have your personal mentors. Go and talk to people and understand. You want to take a decision, you want to change a role, you are getting into something which is unknown. What are the implications? How things would get impacted, and then those things fall in place. So there are now books on that. It's experiential. At least for me, it has been experiential.
Thank you.
Akshat, do you want to go next?
Good afternoon, sir. Akshat this side. Sir, my question is more related to the AI. So I want to know your thoughts about having an AI-focused investment fund where we are focusing mainly on quality and innovative solutions, not necessarily giving the CP savings immediately. but having a long-term potential impact.
No, you said AI focused what? I lost that.
AI focused investment fund, where we are doing projects mainly in terms of quality and providing innovative solutions, which may not be giving immediately cost savings, but in a larger time, it can potentially impact in a positive way. So what are your thoughts about it, especially in present condition where we are facing a lot of inflationary pressure?
So see, my thoughts on that are, as I said, AI is an enabler and AI is a disruptor or an enemy also. So these kind of investments are needed, and obviously, whichever function you are in, you should think about what can make life easier for you, your work life easier for you, and work towards that. And I'm sure the company doesn't shy away from investments on these things. So we don't look at return on investments on everything, but obviously on larger investments, there are return on investments looked at. But when it comes to, you talked about inflationary pressure and the actions that we have to take, inflationary pressure, price increases, and grammage changes, and so on and so forth. So if AI can help in smoothing any of these processes, why not? If it can bring down the time taken to these processes, it eventually leads to an ROI. But it is right, complexity is increasing, the amount of information that you have to provide to your managers, the decisions that you have to take all keep increasing, and use of AI is very important. But let me also caution you, AI is a much abused word. Okay, today you meet every external person, like in purchase we meet a lot of people from outside, and everybody says we have AI, and what that AI has done for them, nobody can explain. It's become a fashion to use AI as a word. So you have to sift through it and see what is more appropriate for you. Don't go after fads. There are a lot of fads which come in. Don't go after fads. Do a hard-nosed evaluation of what is right for your function, your role, and then look at how it can be used to improve your work performance.
Right.
Bhupendra, you can go ahead with your question.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, sir. This side Bhupendra from Jhagadia factory. So, sir, I just want to know, as everybody set goals in their life, in their professional career. So, when you joined years back in Britannia as a senior purchase manager, how has been your journey? Have you any time said that one day you will be the head of procurement and manufacturing in the Britannia vertical? So, how it works, sir? Is there a law of attraction, or just hard and smart working?
Okay. So see, obviously, I definitely had the aspiration of heading the procurement department. Definitely, I never thought of taking up manufacturing. I definitely had that aspiration of heading manufacturing. Heading procurement, and I worked towards that. Skilled myself up, took up different responsibilities, and fortunate enough to have bosses who trusted in me and gave me more and more opportunities to work. Law of attraction and all, I can't comment, right? But I think you have to equip yourself. Then whatever laws of attraction, etc., you talk can work. But if you don't equip yourself, nothing will work. You have to work towards what you want and what will get you there. Of course, through various discussions with your mentors or outside people. Look at where you want to go. The biggest problem many people face is there are a lot of aspirations, but there are skill gaps. And that's when the biggest discontent comes in. That everybody wants to be the top person in the company, but not all are equipped to do it. Right? But that doesn't mean you should give up. But if you feel that you want to progress, what is the skill that you want to add? That you must think of and get that skill added, and then take your efforts. And I think things fall in place.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Right.
Yeah, Karthikeyan, you can go next. Karthikeyan, I think you raised your hand. Okay. If not, then we can go ahead with Shraddha. Shraddha, you can ask your question.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Manoj sir.
Good afternoon.
I'm Shraddha Singh Puri, Factory HR Head of the Dairy Ranjangaon, Pune.
Okay.
I hope I'm audible.
You have to
Yeah,
be
we can hear
slightly
you.
louder,
Yeah, we can
slightly
hear you.
louder, slightly louder. Yeah, go on.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Shraddha.
Okay. So I just want to know that in your journey, how do you work on win-win situation where you mention learn from your failure, learn from your past, learn from your failure as an experience, not to repeat that mistake again. But in that time, or is there any situation you have faced where other failures hit your mental peace and your work? Or I can ask that in that situation, how you avoided not to accepted other failure without impact or affect your work life or performance.
Sorry, I'm not clear about the question. If you can
Okay.
elaborate simplistically, it would help me.
Okay, once again, I'm repeating my question that you have mentioned in your conversation that you need to be learned from your failure.
Yeah.
And that will be considered as an experience so that we can not repeat that mistake again, or I can say that you could not see that failure again in the future and to move forward for the success of performance or mental peace or performance like that. But if sometime have you faced any other failure in your work life or in your performance where you have faced win-win situation where you have avoided or not accepted that failure in your work? I know
Okay,
this
so-
is a little bit tricky question.
You are from HR.
Yeah.
You are about to
I
ask such
think I'll
questions.
simplify, Shraddha.
Yeah,
Let
please
me know if
simplify. I'm still not clear about it.
catching up. I think she said that while you've mentioned about the openness to mistakes and learning from them, but has it ever happened in your experience that a mistake happened, but yet helped you in steering through in that situation and helped you move forward?
And that's come on
Everybody's
win-win
lucky.
situation.
Everybody is lucky, Luck
Sometimes
helps
you're
you.
lucky.
Everybody is lucky, Sometimes you get luck when you are in a hopeless situation and you know that you can't come out of it. Sometimes a stroke of luck helps you come out, and that's life.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. We have a question from KB also. I think KB raised his hand.
Yeah,
Krishnendu,
yeah.
right?
Hi, Manoj. Good evening. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So when business is under tremendous stress, how do you motivate yourself?
When a business under tremendous stress, how do I motivate myself?
Yeah.
So, you have to know the end goal. The end goal is the big motivator. Business will always be under stress. See, we are in a situation where, there's so much of competition, things keep on changing, consumer preferences keep on changing. And one interesting part that is I find interesting in working in an FMCG environment is the constant change. Every day is a new day. There's new stimulus that comes in and you have to adapt to it. And most of the FMCG organizations are quite flexible in doing that because otherwise they cease to exist. Right. So that end goal about what you want to be and knowing that you will be contributing towards achieving those end goals are good motivators. You have to have a little bit of flexibility because what worked yesterday may not work today, right? Because things have changed, right? And you will find you are from the dairy side and you will find, I know, you are under your business is under a lot of stress because of the market environment and so on and so forth. So it's important to keep that flexibility and recalibrate yourself.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you. Right.
Thanks.
Yes. So in the interest of time, we'll just take last two questions. I know a lot of people have raised their hands, but we'll restrict it to last two questions. So Shreya, you can go next, and post which Prashant can go ahead. Shreya, you can go ahead with your question. So okay, if not, Prashant, you can go.
Yeah. So, Manoj sir, it's a question regarding the kind of the subject matter, basic question. So I just want to ask, sir, with the current global supply chain disruptions which are going on and increasing a lot of expectations around the environmental, social, and governance, right? How do you see the role of the strategic procurement evolving in that scenario, sir?
So see, the supply chain disruptions that started happening post COVID, and obviously, the global warming and so on and so forth. That is, we can all see, we can all experience it, right? So our company decided to be a total. So we are a responsible total global foods company. That's our motto, right? If you see our motto, we are not only a total global foods company, but we call ourselves a responsible total global foods company, and every aspect of our operations have to be responsible, right? So that is very important. It's a very important agenda for the organization, and all of you are driving it. Was that it's one of the most important things. Incidentally, I also happen to coordinate for the ESG efforts in the company, and I know what each part of the organization is doing towards it. It's important, and we must pursue it, because otherwise the consumer preference is changing. The consumers want something which is good for the environment. Today, the percentage of the consumers who want something good for the environment is less, but believe me, in some time that percentage will grow significantly. And then if we don't adapt to that, we would cease to exist, or we would cede our market share to somebody else who comes, right? So we have to be ahead of the curve on that. And I'm happy that, Britannia as a food company, we are ahead of a lot of other Indian food companies in that bargain, in that journey. And the good part is that we have been doing it for the last many years. If you actually see the history, we started our energy conservation and water conservation efforts somewhere in 2011 or 12. It's just that we didn't go to town tom-tomming about it. Now there was a pressure from investors to declare it, and that's why we started declaring in 2021. But I think as a company, our heart is in the right place, and we have been doing those things. We are doing the right things. It's just a matter that, last 3 years we are publishing it, but otherwise we have been on that journey for more than a decade.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
So there is a question from Shreya. She is asking, how do you see customer expectations around product quality changing, and what should our factories do to stay ahead?
Okay. So first is that, factories have to focus on food safety, right? Because, anything that is not supposed to be given to the consumer finds it, and then they can amplify it many folds. And we are a more than 100-year-old company, probably 106 to be precise, right? 2018 we celebrated our century, and if that's a long time to build a reputation, and we can't our reputation be tarnished. Britannia means trust. It's one of the most trusted brands in the country, and if we give something to somebody which they are not supposed to get, right, then our reputation gets tarnished, and that is far more important than the market value, etc., that we have, right? So from a factory point of view, absolutely necessary, ethical working, right? Focus on the environment and focus on food safety and quality. That's the most important thing from a consumer point of view that a factory should do.
Yes. So I think we still have a lot of questions, but in the interest of time, I think we can close now. Thank you so much, Manoj, for this insightful chat. It was amazing to hear from you, from your real experiences and reflections from your journey. You have shared so many impactful insights, in such simple words, effortlessly. And your experience have reminded us of the importance of staying grounded and importance of being respectful towards the people you are working with. Thank you to Ramesh as well for hosting this. And to everyone here, thank you so much for joining in. Just one last thing, I encourage all of you to please take a moment after this session and share your key takeaways from this session on the Britannia Community of Managers platform in the form of a post. You can probably post about a key learning or a key insight that you took away from our today's session. And the second thing that you can speak about is a people management practice that has worked well for you in the past. I think it'll be great to hear from all of you about your practices or something that has worked well in in your team, and let's keep the conversation going on the platform, and let's learn from each other and our experiences.
Thanks, Prachi, Tanvi, and thanks, Ramesh. Thank you all for giving me a patient hearing. Thanks.
Thank you.
You
Thank
seem
you
to be a
so
popular leader. Thank you.
Yes. We've logged in maximum participation until now,
Thank
Manoj.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Maximum questions also.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.